I've got an A7R Mark III here with the back window glass broken, so I've already gone and removed the damaged shards there in the back. I've actually taken this camera apart and put it back together, but I didn't see any good tutorials online on how to open this up and put it back together, so I thought I'd make one. So in order to take this thing apart, the first thing you want to do is take off the eyepiece here. So this is just this thing just slides on the top there. So this slides off here. And before I get too far along here, I'm going to throw on some gloves so I'm not getting fingerprints all over this tiny little glass screen that I'm going to put on here. Got a handful of very tiny screwdrivers that'll help me open this thing up. The first time I opened it up, I actually had to use some pliers along with one of these tiny screwdrivers to be able to get the thing to open. See if I can get the thing to focus. There we go. Alright, so the first thing I want to do is remove that back piece here, and then there's screws basically all over this thing. So the first thing you want to do is start on the left hand side and open up all of these doors. Just try and get that in focus there. So there's screws all over the place in here. So these are all Phillips screwdriver. Don't need anything like a Torx wrench or anything. So I'll start taking this thing apart. I'm going to do this whole thing in one shot, so that way nothing can be left out, and then hopefully if you need to put it back together, it'll be easy to just rewind the video and find where you're at. So there's one screw inside of the first cover. There's a screw inside the second section here. Let's see. Actually, these gloves aren't doing much help. Making it very difficult. Another thing you can try is using like a small neodymium magnet. You put it onto the screwdriver close to the head, close to the tip here, and when you're pulling the screws out, the magnet will help you pull the screws out. So make sure I get that one out there. That's in that first compartment that's got the plug-in power and this here. There's one right here in the middle, right there. There's one just above the HDMI port. Go ahead and take that one out. So now we're at 3 screws. All of these screws so far are all the same. Most of them are actually the same. And I think that's it for this section. These pieces right here, these little plastic pieces, will kind of just fall off as we take apart the back of the body. Next we need to take these 4 screws out. So we've got a screw here, 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 and there's one in the center of the knob here. So I've already loosened all these, so it's much actually easier than you're going to find. So go ahead and take these 4 out. So the knob here will come with it, a little diopter knob. Try to keep all these together so it'll be easier to find later on. So you got 4 screws here. Alright, and then there's there's a screw in here. Yeah, there's 2 screws that are inside the SD card port. So I'm going to go ahead and just take out these 2 SD cards I've got. And then there's 2 screws, one right here and one up here at the top. Go ahead and take those 2 out. And like I said, I think pretty much every screw in the back here, well so far anyway, are all the same. I think maybe the diopter is a little bit different. Take that one out. So if these kind of get mixed up, it's not going to be a big deal for the screws. I think some of the other bodies, this A7 Mark III, Mark IV, I think they use different size screws, so you have to watch out with that. All right, so then there's more screws actually back here behind the screen. You don't actually have to take some of these down here at the bottom off that are below the screen on the hinge. Let's start up here at the top. So this one actually is that's a little bit tinier. Can't get this thing to focus very well. It's a little bit tinier, so maybe keep those separate. Don't want to lose these tiny screws. They're very, very, very small. I think that might be it. Maybe we have to take all these off. I'm forgetting whether or not those were needed or not. Let's wait on those. Then the bottom, there's a handful of screws down here. There is one actually inside in the battery compartment here, up in the very back. This thing does not like to focus. One way back up in there, but I don't think that's needed to get this back off. So there's 4 here and 1 on the outside here. There's 1. So this looks like the same screw as the previous ones. It's the initial bunch. There's 2. I found some of the videos had a lot of cutaways that I was watching before, and you could never really tell whether or not you were missing a screw location. So this would be way easier just to do the whole thing in one go, and then we both know there's no screws that I didn't talk about. Alright. 2 more. My magnet's picking up all these extra screws. Give me 1 second. Alrighty. So once you get the last 2 screws out of the bottom, you'll see that this is actually just a big cover plate. So that cover plate just pops right off. You can see there, and then this is one large metal piece as well. I believe this just pops off. There's going to use the magnet to pop that off. And that's the 1/4-20 screw mount there. And now we're into the bottom, so you can see all the components inside the camera. I think at this point we can go ahead and move to this wrap. So I was a little scared about this in the first place. I found out that there's actually there's 2 screws back behind here. I was very hesitant to try to peel this off because I thought I'd never get it back. So I have a very tiny flathead screwdriver here, and I started in the corner, and you can kind of just peel it up just a little bit, and you can see a screw right inside there. There's one, and if you keep peeling up just very gently, so you don't want to rip this. I'm not sure how long it takes to get a new one in, but it peels off pretty easy. And there's 2 screws back there, so same deal. These 2 screws are a different color for some reason, but I believe they're the same. Maybe a little bit different size. So there's screw number 1. It's a silver screw. And then screw number 2 right here. And once we take those 2 screws out, I believe we're ready to pop this whole back off. So let's give that a shot. I think I started over here on this side. Yep, so let me get it into focus. This whole back kind of just pops off. These little pieces on the side start flying off, and those aren't too bad to get back on. So here's the top one that covers HDMI port. Here's the bottom one for the USB-C. And now the whole back comes apart. So it does look like we didn't need to take those two screws out at the bottom of the LCD. I pull the LCD screen off again. You can see that there we go. There's two screws down here and here. Don't need to be removed. So let's go ahead and put that back together. All right. So when you open it up, this is what you've got. So you can see your SD card slots top and bottom here. You've got a whole bunch of ribbon cables. You can actually purchase the entire unit here. Let me move this out of the way. You can purchase the entire screen unit for pretty cheap off eBay. But once I took that out, and that just slides out, I realized that there's a lot of ribbon cables that are actually glued inside there. They're actually glued to the top and bottom. And I was worried that if I started messing with it, I was going to rip one of those ribbon cables, and it's going to end up being way more expensive than I thought it was going to be. Now this was a $2,500 camera when I first bought it, so anything I could do to repair it would obviously be ideal. So this little glass piece I got off eBay. That's exactly how it came. And it looks like it's just kind of sandwiched between two pieces of plastic. So I'm going to need to cut that out, and I think I'm probably going to need the gloves here because I don't want to get fingerprints on the backside. I got this little glass cover off eBay for maybe 15 bucks or something. So it wasn't too bad. If you break the inside glass screen way down inside there, that's the actual screen that covers the monitor, and that will require entire replacement. But if you just crack the outside piece of glass, then it's as simple as buying a new pane of glass for 15 bucks. And I'm actually going to try to use a touch of super glue and glue that on there. The original one had just some sticky back, maybe double-sided sticky tape, but it was some kind of like sticky foam or something. So I had to use the tiny screwdriver and pry off the shards of glass, because this camera actually fell and there was shards of glass in here, and I'd used it for months afterwards, and just tried not to cut my eyeball open. Alright, so this, I'm going to try to cut out this piece of glass that came from some random seller off of eBay. Came from China, I believe, and it was took about 2 weeks to get here. Alright, so there's the glass. This is the tiniest little window ever. I don't know if you can see that at all. Let's see how it fits. It fits right in there perfectly. Yeah, there's like a little recess that glass is going to fit onto. It fits down inside that little recess around the outside. So I think what I'm going to do is just put just a dab of super glue on the outside of it. Not enough that it's going to run, but just enough that it's going to want to stay in place when I shake this thing around a little bit. So maybe I'll get a tiny screwdriver here for assistance on this one. So I want to put just the smallest amount possible. So put a little bit on my screwdriver there. I'll see if I can just throw a little bit on the corners here. Just a smidge. Okay. sure this isn't the 100% right way to go about doing this, but I don't know how to get that little tiny piece that it came with. So we'll get that on there. Make sure we don't get too much any super glue on that glass. Looks like I'm getting a little bit. I might have to take a little bit of acetone or something and make sure that's fully rinsed off. Let me see if I got anything around the table I can use here. Oh yeah, I got a baby wipe over here. Might be able to use. Alright, well, that's not terrible. It's not good, but not terrible. I can probably fix that up once I get this whole thing back together. So once that's in there, I feel pretty confident that the glue's dried already. Looks pretty good. Actually, I'll flip this upside down to make sure it doesn't fall out. That looks pretty good. Now just putting the whole thing back together, which shouldn't be too bad. It's going to make sure I didn't damage these ribbon cables when I did that. Alright. So as you're putting this thing back together, you do need to worry about those little upper and lower pieces of plastic that go on the left side. So the top one, it just goes in that center hole, kind of squish it in there. The bottom one goes, let's see, the bottom one there's a little slot. Keep getting out there. Alright, there's a little slot down there. You kind of put this down inside, wiggle it into place, and as you're closing it, everything will kind of cinch back up. Of course, I'm trying to do everything in one take here, so I'm probably not going to do this 100% perfectly. Alright, that wasn't too bad. A little snap there. And hopefully these doors close. Alright, that actually looks pretty good. So there's a little bit of gap over here. I think all I need to do is once I start putting screws in, it'll close everything up. Make sure all the screw holes align. So there's a screw hole, these 3 screw holes on this side over here. So once you pull this thing, you know, the back of the body towards the front of the body, those screw holes will kind of align themselves, and you can just put those screws in there and cinch it back up. So maybe there's also a bunch on the bottom. Maybe I'll throw in a couple of screws on this side first, and then I'll work my way around. So this could be a little bit of a pain. I guess I don't need these gloves anymore. I'm not worried about that glass piece. I'll just worry about getting fingerprints on the other side of that glass piece. I'd never be able to unfingerprint them. So, get these in here. And once again, you can use the tip of the screwdriver with the magnet to help you put the screw head onto the screwdriver. Tighten these down pretty good. Last time I didn't tighten them very much because I knew I was going to be taking this whole thing apart again. Alright. That looks like I'm using the wrong screw or something. It wants to stick up too far. Let me take a look at that head. They all look pretty much identical. Maybe I just wasn't screwing that in right. Let me try that again. So there's one here. Yeah, I think maybe I just didn't screw that in right. Not sure what's going on there. Come on. Okay, now those close without any kind of issue there. Alright, we got one more here on the left side. For some reason that also doesn't feel right. Doesn't feel like it's catching in there. There must be multiple types of screws and I just never realized it. Let's see here. I don't see a difference. I'm not sure what that is. Well, let me try a different screw. Maybe I'm just going crazy here. That seems to work just fine. I'm not sure what's going on there. Yeah, it's just not catching there at the bottom. I'm not sure what. That's weird. It still closes though. I'm not sure what was going on there. So we'll take these two silver screws that we got and peel this back and get the one underneath this grippy, leathery stuff. Looks like they only need about less than a full 360 rotation to get them in. Alright, here's the other one. Yeah, maybe a little more than that. And this kind of just smushes back into place, and I don't think you can ever tell if that was ever opened. It does kind of just falls back into place, and it's well glued. There's enough glue on there, I think that'll just stay there. I don't think it's going to come back off again. And then all we got to do is put in this bottom plate. So here's our 1/4-20 plate. So that's going to go there. And then the cover plate that's got the serial number and stuff on it goes on the bottom. And then there's the 9 screws here. So this is going to take a minute. One. So hopefully when I'm done, I have 0 screws left sitting on this table. Typically that's not the case. Alright, there's the 9 screws on the back. Let's go ahead and put the one in the diopter. This one I did separate it out. This one it does look like it's a little bit longer. Once I put those Phillips heads together, it kind of fits there. There is a little bit of orientation to this. It's going to be very difficult to see, probably impossible, but there is a tiny little notch here on the back that it's got to fit into. So that notch looks like it needs to fit down this way. Yeah, you can kind of rotate it into place, and once it's there, you can screw it in. It was a pretty tight screw. That was very difficult to get out. I think that one I needed the pliers, and then this should still, yeah, it still rotates, which is good. Means it's not totally messed up or anything. It does look like it's a little off center though. Let me try that again. There we go. That's sitting more flush this time. There we go. There we go. That looks a lot better. All right. We'll go ahead and put these 4 screws in the eyepiece area. And there we go. Seeing 2 extra screws here, and I'm trying to remember where they went. Those are actually over here. Alright, so this one is the bottom. And the top. Didn't realize you can't see what I'm doing here. There we go. So those are the 2 screws in the top and bottom here. And the only screw left to go here is there's the one that's up in the top behind the screen right up here. And that is, it appears to be the tiniest screw. The only screw that is not like the others. It's about half the length. And that fits up there. And that will conclude our show today. So hopefully everything works. Let's see here. I'm missing the eyepiece. Where did I put that? There it is. Alright, so then the eyepiece just slides back on, clicks into place. And now, moment of truth. It still works. That's a good sign. Didn't tear up any connectors, and if I put my finger up there, you'll be able to see the screen inside. So everything is working just fine, and hopefully that piece of glass stays there. If you have any questions on dismantling one of these, let me know, but that's as far as I've taken it. I didn't want to go through the whole process of taking out all the ribbon cables and the different circuit boards that are inside. There are some tutorials online to do all that stuff, but just a little above what I feel comfortable to do. So good luck, and thank you.